Right, let's take a look at Arsenal. What is it that Arsenal are actually doing which makes a big difference this season? Of course, there was a good win the other night against Everton, and that was all well and good. But there have been big changes around Arsenal which aren't just about grit, determination, all the things which are intangible, which so many people love to cite. There are lots of good things that Arsenal are doing, and I just thought I'd run through a couple of them because I'm really appreciating Arsenal this season, really appreciating Mikel Arteta as well. And this, my friends, this was the end of the Arsenal fans. You may have switched off by now, but stick with me in this one. This here was where I thought the ceiling for Arsenal was beginning to form. I thought there was like kind of a crust that was, can they just about break through it into the top four? Spurs are getting better. They got Conte. Chelsea are clearly going to be investing. Liverpool, of course, felt like a unstoppable force at one time, and City obviously felt completely unstoppable. But that was how the Premier League table finished last season. And it felt to me as if Mikel Arteta was making progress at Arsenal, but we never knew that it could be this supercharged. We never knew it could be this level. And so I want to take a little look at that, right? Especially if you zoom in here on the Premier League tables and the differences between the two Premier League tables, between 2022-23, where Arsenal are top of the table, 60 points, only 3 points behind where Man City were in the previous year on game 25. And along with that, they are 21 points ahead of where they were before, meaning that they've changed 7 losses or 7 whatever points, sets of points dropped into wins. In fact, that's almost literal because they've won 19 and they won 12 previously. It's just like, that's what I'm saying. They've changed these games which were probably marginal before, or games where you'd expect Arsenal maybe to lose, into games that you now expect Arsenal to win. They're gunning. That's what I'm saying. And there are loads of good reasons for it as well. And I think, the Everton game is a good and a bad game to analyse because they obviously absolutely thrashed Everton, and a thrashing is never really a great indicator. But they'd also, in previous games, not done so well against Everton, say against Sean Dyche when he managed to do that initial manager bounce. So what's changed? Well, it's not about change necessarily at Arsenal, it's also about confidence. And I just want to run through some of these frontline guys. The finish from Saka was insane against Everton, but at the same time, it wasn't just him. It was a number of different players in this game. I just love that LeBron meme, by the way. In this Arsenal era, there must be so many Arsenal fans that are like, did we see this coming? But it felt as if there was a bit of something that Arsenal were going to knock up against, be that previous versions of Arsenal that they're now changing, or be that other teams are also investing, if not as much as Arsenal, more money at this point. So, it's great to see players like Gabriel Martinelli coming in and making even bigger changes than they had in previous seasons. You got player of the night, the player of the match, and rightly so, he scored 2 goals, and they were also 2 much more centre-forward-y goals. I'm really enjoying the fact that he is now a centre-forward for Arsenal, rather than just hey, he's young, there's potential. He's really grown into a position this season, which isn't actually centre-forward, it's actually left wing. But is finishing the way that they could rotate that front three, which, by the way, is super adaptable at the moment. There was this great graphic I saw online where, I can't put it in here because it had the TV on it, but it's basically Martinelli finds himself on the right, Saka finds himself through the middle, you've got Zinchenko who's pushing up the field and has been really, really key to Arsenal, but also you've then got, it might be Xhaka, it might be Jorginho, just in the middle, somewhere else, and it's nice, it's not only nice, but it's really great for the Arsenal team to see adaptability. That adaptability is also obviously afforded to them by the likes of Martin Odegaard. He's got 6 assists, 9 goals. Look at all these chances he's created in the Premier League in terms of his passes and, hooking up the play up front. He's been incredible. And his possessions won in the final third, really key. Look at that. First in the Premier League. Arsenal captain, posting all about it online, getting a goal as well, but then also, let's change the dance, should we say, Martin? Because the dance, I think, does look at, the dance just looked a bit weird last night. I was a bit like, is that really, you're young, sure, have fun with it, but change it. Doesn't look, anyway, maybe don't, maybe there's a reason why. Anyway, you've then got the fact that they've added other players to that, right? You've got the great transfer window that could have been at one point. I think people were talking about whether Arsenal would get a multi-million-pound midfielder who was way more than, say, a Jorginho in. They were also talking about whether Mudryk would actually come to Arsenal. That was assumed at one point that he would. They ended up with Trossard. Value for money underestimates and understates how good Trossard is for Arsenal. Not only is he one of those players that can play as a more advanced forward, so say, not exactly like this, but a Mane come Salah type who's been adapted into a more of a goal threat. When I say adapted, I mean he's seamlessly fit into the Arsenal side as a goal threat, as if he's been playing in this side for quite some time now. Clearly, he's got a great understanding of how to be an adaptable forward, interchanging with other people up front. And that was something I alluded to a second ago, but it's only getting better in this Arsenal team. Now, sure, we can talk about adaptability. We can talk about someone like Gabriel Jesus, who was definitely alluding to that. And you could see that Arsenal were really enjoying this multi-positional game that they were allowed to play, people drifting all over the place, especially Gabriel Jesus, due to his not only effectiveness in that role, but also just the fact that it was Gabriel Jesus and it was resulting in loads of goals in the end. It was resulting in loads of chances for Arsenal. So that's fantastic. But also just the shifts that they have in here. And when I talk about shifts, I'm not talking about someone putting in a shift. I'm talking about how they shift games. Kieran Tierney came on. Thomas Partey came on. Emile Smith-Rowe, Eddie Nketiah, and Fabio Vieira. That is a unit of players there which previously, in previous games this season, Arsenal haven't had available to them, either because of injury or lack of resource. Say, earlier in the season, Thomas Partey probably would have had to have been starting the game. Jorginho wasn't in that position. Sure, they could have put Zinchenko there, but Zinchenko's got this different role to Partey, so they need him in that kind of an area. And then you've also got the fact that Emile Smith-Rowe was injured. Eddie Nketiah was their only striking option. Trossard coming in gives Martinelli maybe just a bit more of that chance that he could play through the middle, or he could play off for Trossard, or is Trossard like a weird false nine? That he's not a false nine, but is he a weird false striker that then shifts? Is he someone who Arsenal can kind of rely on to be a bit more adaptable up front? And maybe when the players around him go, actually, hey, that guy's not the goal threat that we need, because I'm going to be that goal threat. Trossard plays in this kind of inside, almost Kai Havertz-y type of position. Does that make sense? What Chelsea want Kai Havertz to do, which is to facilitate as much as score, is what Trossard has sort of come in and done at Chelsea. Now, I know some of you are going to be scoffing at that, but facilitation is as much an important part of goals as anything else. Now, I then downloaded all the match events. I screenshot it. But you've got your subset. And now, two of them actually made quite late in the game when Arsenal are 4-0 up. So let's not talk about those, right? But let's talk a little bit earlier about the Thomas Partey for Jorginho substitute. Half-time, they're already 2-0 up, and, maybe he went off due to injury, maybe he went off just because they want to change things up a little bit, but there's a change made at half-time, right? And there's also a change made by Everton, but that's quite a different change. But Jorginho and Partey, I said this when Jorginho first signed for the club, he can fulfill a number of different roles. If Partey's not on the side, Jorginho can keep the ball moving alongside a Xhaka or someone like that. But also Jorginho is very good at winning the ball back. But Partey just gives them this level of control in the game, this footing in the match where it's like, cool, this guy can kind of sit alongside a captain, can sit alongside the influential guys. How come whenever I record there's always a siren? Anyway, Martinelli and Saka have given Arsenal the lead at this point. There's no need, say, to bring on and change a formation because it's working so effectively against Everton. But 2-0 is the most dangerous scoreline. So anyway, they do that, and you can see that Everton are trying to unlock Arsenal in the second half. You can see that there is this element of, we're going to try and at least get something back into this game. They've got nothing to lose at this point. Holgate has come on for Gay. Coleman and Begovri changed, but then also they take off Neil Maupay for Damari Gray. They're trying to get at Arsenal a little bit at this point. Trossard brings that, he facilitates the Odegaard goal. He cuts the ball back because of, again, he's playing in that half space on the inside there, cuts the ball back. There is a ball put on for him by I can't remember who it was, but someone else running through, and they put the ball on, and suddenly Odegaard is just in the middle, overloading again. What I'm saying, you'll get my point in a second. Just go with me here. Then Martinelli gets that final goal where he is playing as like a centre-forward, Ruud van Nistelrooy type. Again, Eddie Nketiah comes on for Trossard. puts on a goal for Martinelli. What I'm saying is here, there are a number of different kind of plug and play pieces for Arsenal, which don't have to fit that square peg into that square hole. It's like, where does Martinelli want to go? Okay, well, he can be facilitated by Eddie Nketiah because Nketiah will drop a little bit deeper, or Nketiah is going to be so disruptive that there's loads of space for Martinelli. There's lots of adaptation in this Arsenal side, and there's lots of interchanging of roles. Now, a lot of people were also then saying, hey, well, really what they're just doing is they're just playing an adaptation of a Pep Guardiola system. But they're different to City. If you saw Martinelli going from wing to wing, like if you saw that in Jack Grealish or you saw it in so many other players, you know that's because there is some form of in-game management that Pep has allowed his players to do. But at the same time, you know that's not preferable for Pep. You know that there are these kind of fixed positions. Not so fixed that Pep is obviously, an autocrat, but like, you know what I'm saying there. Maybe I'm not as good at tactical chat as some other people, but you know that what I'm getting at here is the difference between Arsenal and the autonomy that some of these players are currently displaying compared to the transitional season that Man City find themselves in, hence why look at where they are in the league right now, 5 points behind Arsenal, which was exactly the same gap as when they went in. Were they not more when they went in at the World Cup? I felt like it was 7 at the World Cup, but equal on games, points, 5 points difference. It's pretty good for Arsenal right now. And in fact, Arsenal and Man City have got a similar last 5 games. 1 draw each, 1 loss each, 3 wins within there. So they're keeping pace with each other, which again was something we doubted that Arsenal would be able to do. And I think, don't tell me you didn't doubt that, because I think a lot of people did. A lot of Arsenal fans went quiet recently, especially when I was saying keep the faith. So in that space, keep the faith. But Everton also helped this. They didn't really play Arsenal in the way that they did before. Arsenal looked a lot more confident. I felt like really that previous game where they lost to Everton was a great primer for this game, because Arsenal have ticked games off since then, but they've kind of been ready to explode against Everton since, and really Arteta got exploited by, I wouldn't say Allardyce then, but Sean Dyche, and that was the frustration, I guess, for those guys. They now have this grind of March, which I've not even bothered to list here because I've spoken about the grind of March before on this channel, and then it becomes April, and April is such a key month, right? The 9th, you've got Liverpool. The 26th, so there's a couple of games in between there, you've got Man City. You've then got Chelsea immediately after, and then immediately after that, a week between, but 3 days between the City game and the Chelsea game. A week after that, you've then got City, and then a week after that, you've then got Brighton. So don't tell me there's not difficult games. By the way, this chart does not show where teams are. I mean, you could put Liverpool kind of there, City kind of there, Chelsea kind of there, Newcastle sort of there, Brighton kind of there? No, yeah, right? Do you know what I mean in my chart? Anyway, the point is there's a lot of difficult games coming. You've got this grind in March. They're also playing Sporting Lisbon in there. But look at that. Maybe Liverpool a little bit higher by then. Who knows, right? I'm just saying. You've got that, though. Do you see what I'm saying? Look at the difficulty. That you can see Chelsea may probably be there, and Newcastle might actually be a little bit higher than them. The point is, the difficulty of these games in the run-in with this 5-point gap, you need to be ticking these Everton games off here. And you need to be romping sides, but you also need to be doing this stuff down here, this adaptability stuff. Because the adaptability, by the way, is not about one kind of adaptability. There is multiple different kinds of adaptability. Tierney is a like-for-like replacement. Partey could be listed as a like-for-like replacement, but isn't, because he comes in for Jorginho. It's like-for-like in a sense they play a similar position, but it's not like-for-like in terms of what they do. Emile Smith-Rowe is a change-up. You can talk about positional change, massive difference. Eddie Nketiah coming on. Who did Eddie Nketiah come on for? Trossard. Though that's not like for like. So that's a big change in the movement of Arsenal at that point. And again, Nketiah comes on when Arsenal are 3-0 up. So, they're bringing this guy back in. At one point, I think a lot of people think, hey, the thing you need to have is either fully fit players or not fully fit players. Arsenal are currently doing squad management, which they weren't able to do in previous weeks. I was looking back through some of their previous games. Some of their previous games, they've had 2 players come on. Some of them have had 3. Some they've made 5 subs, and they've been much more successful. The more subs that Arsenal make, it tends to be an indication of how in control they are in that game. And I don't know, I feel like there's an indication of what is going on for Arsenal sometimes. Arteta was hamstrung at one. Arteta was hamstrung at one point because he could only make 2-3 subs at any one time. And really, a right back for a right back, sometimes, you can almost overlook that. But a Tomiyasu or a Kieran Tierney coming in for whoever it is that starts there, or vice versa, is a big change in one of these games. It means that they've got fresh legs. It means they've got someone who's putting in a different kind of cross, because I also think the tools available to each of their fullbacks are so different. And then on top of that, you've obviously got the difference in movement from a Zinchenko to another player like even a Tierney or someone like that. So there are big changes going on at Arsenal at the moment. All of these subs that they made, really key. Just a real indication of where the club is at right now. And I haven't even mentioned Vieira for Xhaka, which is probably one of the, if not the biggest positional change, apart from if you take off Zinchenko. So there's a lot of clever squad management going on. A lot of other people going like for like, not changing games in big ways. Arteta's substitutes show how well drilled this side are right now. It shows how well the side is put together and the depth of the squad, which you wouldn't necessarily have thought, scale to fit, which you wouldn't necessarily have thought Arsenal had earlier on in the season. 2 smart January transfer signings make 5 really great subs in the end. I'm making the case for it. That's what I'm saying. These 2 signings make a really big difference, especially Trossard against Everton. I hope you guys enjoyed the content. I hope that you're enjoying the conversation. If you're an Arsenal fan, you've got something to add on this, let me know in the comments below. You will end up in one of these mind map videos next time where we can talk all about, that's right, my friends, the guys who are the champions elect, Arsenal. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you haven't already, subscribe. It's down there. Hit it. I really appreciate it. And I will see you guys in a little while on this channel. Much love. Bye.